Well, hey folks, my name is Brad, and today I have hiked way up into the mountains of Vermont to one of the more isolated places I have ever gone. And right behind me is an old stone foundation from folks that used to live up here around the end of the 1800s, I think. I wasn't actually able to find out a whole lot of information on them or why they would be way out here in the middle of absolutely nowhere. But I brought my metal detector today to see if maybe we can find a few treasures they lost while they were here. Now, if this is one of the first of my videos that you've seen, I publish one of these every single Friday. So if you like what you see here today, consider hitting that subscribe button or just come on back next week. I'm gonna get that metal detector out, see what we can find. This is a very loud 87. What are you? Ooh, I think I know. Oh my gosh. Look at the size of that bell. Wow. Man, these jingle bells are one of my favorite things to find up here in the mountains of Vermont. And you know, I have found a lot of them, but they come in different sizes. And by far, the most common size I have found are the smaller version. This, I would say, is a medium size, and I don't think I've ever found any complete. They are a very brittle white bronze material, and they break very, very easily, especially when stepped on by a horse. This one appears to have a hole in it. I'm fairly confident that this is damage and not as designed. I've never seen anything quite like that. But these larger sized bells oftentimes have maker marks. Unfortunately, it does not appear this one does, but I can tell by the design of the loop here, this is an older one. I don't think it would be out of the question to say end of the 1700s for this. And whenever I call these jingle bells in videos, people always say, that's not a jingle bell, that's a crotal bell. Well, in this case, I believe that's probably true. Jingle bells, as in on a sleigh bell, were worn on the horses, and this very likely was worn on like a sheep, for example. Beautiful old bell. And I'm confident once I get the dirt out of this, there'll be a clapper in there still and it'll make sound. Probably more of a clong, clong, clong than a jingle, jingle, jingle though, I would guess. Amazing big, big bell. Very nice sounding 90. 92. Let's get deep. What? That appears to be an old copper coin. Man, unbelievable. Man, whenever I come to a new place, way up here in the mountains, and I'm a little unsure about the history, how old the place might be, how old the things we might find will be, it's always a shock when I find a coin and it's one of these big old coppers. What could it be? Could it be colonial? Could it be 1800s? Who knows? I don't know yet. We're going to find out together. Give it a little wipe here. It might require a little side light. Let's see if we can figure it out. Man, that is what I was hoping for. That is a draped bust, large cent. So I cannot read the date right now, but this is going to be very early 1800s, potentially end of the 1700s, 1790s. What an amazing find at a place I'm sure nobody has even thought about in over 100 years. Whew, man, amazing find. I'm so excited. Finding these never gets old. Enough talking. See if maybe we can find another one. This is a very nice and loud 75. I know what that is. Do you? Well, this is one of those things that you would never imagine losing, but for some reason, metal detecting, we find these all the time. It has a very distinct shape to it, with these ridges around the outside. 2 layers here and a hole in the middle. This is one of many parts of an umbrella or a parasol. There were 3 or 4, I think, of these per umbrella. One of them would stay put, one of them would actually move up and down as the slide, and the spokes would be attached to these and make the umbrella or parasol open or close. And as I said, we find these all the time. And it may just be because they had one umbrella or parasol that broke, so they threw it away, and then you can find 4 of these on the same property. But we find them all over the place. So I don't know, maybe they were just a disposable product. They wore out, so they bought new ones. In any case, whenever I find one of these, it immediately conjures up a thought of a lady in, you can imagine, Victorian 1800s attire out here with her parasol on a hot summer day, just trying to stay cool with her little parasol. I wonder if it did the trick for her. Maybe not, since we found it in the ground, right? As I said, fairly common find, but always an interesting one. Almost got hit in the head with a stick. 74. That's a spoon. Right next to it, I've got a 78. Another spoon. Whoa. Are you kidding me? That is not another spoon. Wow. So I have found numerous miraculous metals in the past. And as far as I could tell through my research, they were all post-1900. I'm not sure I've ever found anything religious from the 1800s and earlier here in the mountains of Vermont. For whatever reason. I probably just haven't swung my coil over anything like that yet. Until now, I think. Man. Old brass. Let me get it cleaned off a little bit here. It does appear as though all of the pieces are there. I have found a smaller cross like this, and there were clearly holes where something was attached, but it was all gone. This one is totally intact. But man, look at the detail on this thing. Almost certainly 1800s. Just think about the story behind this. Was it lost? How distraught must they have been once they realized it was missing? Could it have been thrown out for some reason? Going through a hard time up here in the mountains? We'll never know. But what a find. What a find. The story it could tell. A treasure. Got a scratchy 78 right here. Wow. Well, we have a very familiar find here, an old pocket knife. I might find one of these almost every single trip up here into the mountains. They were obviously a very important part of life back then, and some people still today, myself included, I carry one and use it all the time. People are always asking, hey, can I borrow your knife? So folks who have seen my videos know I like to speculate how these types of things find their way into the ground. And with pocket knives, there's 2 ways that you find them that can give you a pretty good idea how it happened. Occasionally we find them with the blade out and broken off, broken, thrown away, more than likely. But this one, the blade is still folded up, which means it was dropped and lost. Maybe they had a hole in their pocket, maybe they were out here doing something and there was a foot of snow on the ground and in it went hard to find things in a foot of snow. But that's a great find. You can tell that the scales on this are wood or bone. Occasionally we'll find them full brass scales and they'll have a very clear maker on there. But if I had to guess, I would say end of the 1800s on this one. You can see that the iron blade has started to bubble. These will pop off more than likely, and it'll never get opened again, but we can get it cleaned up enough to display, I think. Cool find, quintessential 1800s Vermont. An old pocket knife. See what else we can find. Well, folks who have been watching my channel for any period of time may know that there is one thing up here in the mountains of Vermont that I would love to find, I've never found, and it's not even made out of metal. And that is a moose antler shed. I have found tons of white-tailed deer antler sheds, but never a moose. I saw a bunch of moose tracks hiking in here today, so I was hoping. I did not find a moose antler shed, but I did find something close. Look at that. It is massive. I mean, that is absolutely not a white-tailed deer. There's a jawbone here. Wow, look at the size of that thing. Oh my gosh. Oh man, there's another jawbone over there. There is ribs, it looks like. There's more pieces over there. Looks like the coyotes got to it. I did take a little look around. I do not see any antlers, but you know, it's likely it was either a female or those got eaten up by the mice. I would love to carry that out of here, clean it up, and mount it on my wall. Just have to figure out how to fit it in my backpack. Well, if there was any doubt that I was up here deep in the mountains of Vermont, there's some proof for you. I've got a very strange target here. It's kind of junky, but every once in a while it bumps up into the 90s. I think it's worth investigating here. That's a nail. That is not a nail. That looks like an old coin. Man, another big copper coin at this old place. Can't believe it. These folks up here in the mountains typically didn't have much, so finding multiple coins is always a surprise. But let's give it a brush, find out here. Yep, it's another large cent US coin. 2 today, I can't believe it. I usually go to a place like this not expecting to really find any coins. They didn't have much. They did a lot of their buying with bartering and trading if they were farmers. So it's always a surprise when I find one or more. Rarely silver up here in the mountains, but you never know. We'll see, maybe today. Great find. 74. What is this? It's interesting looking. Well, we have a bit of a mystery item here, but I have a couple guesses, pretty good guesses, I think, about what this might be. So on the inside, you can see a whole mess of little iron levers and pins, and when I first looked at this, I had not a clue. Looks like there's some stuff going on in the back as well. But then I found this piece, which seems to fit right here. This is made out of brass, which is why it sounded so good. And then I noticed this little thing, which sure looks like a cover for a keyhole. And this is not a padlock. It doesn't look anything like a padlock. But I'm wondering if it was more of like a lock to a trunk or a desk or a case of some kind. If my guess is correct, I would say that this would have swung down over a hole down here, a keyhole. This would have been all of the inner workings of the lock. looks like there would have been a little latch that came up this way, right? And then this would have been against the box. Treasure chest latch. That's a cool find. I don't know how old it is. If I were to find this in a park, I would say for sure this is from the 1930s, 1950s. But given where we are, it could very well be from the middle of the 1800s, maybe earlier. Let me know what you think. Man, the Vermont mountains were just full of treasure chests, weren't they? It seemed like I find a piece of one every single week. Great find. 73. Button. Looks like there's quite a bit of gold plating on the back still. Wow, look at that. Front too. Looks like something's on there. So it's not uncommon to find 20 or 30 little metal buttons at a place like this, a home or a farm up in the mountains. And I would say 6 out of 10 of those are just going to be completely blank, front and back. Another 3 out of 10 might be floral or have a little design on there. And every once in a while, it'll be a military button or something significant. Let's find out what this one is. So on the back, you can see there is quite a bit of gilt still there. Wow. Looks like there's some text as well, which I'm not going to be able to read right now, but we can date it that way, hopefully. What's on the side? A fern. How appropriate. In a giant bed of ferns. That's a beautiful little find. You know, it really kind of puts into perspective what the folks up here were wearing. Could have been a men or woman's shirt button or cuff button. Maybe they lost it while they were up here farming or spending some time outside. You have to keep in mind that yes, we are in the forest in the mountains, but at the time they would have clear cut a very large area for whatever they were farming, whether what animals or crops. So it wouldn't have exactly looked like this. Might have been ferns though. Very nice. With so much gold gilt still intact, makes it extra special. That's a great find. All right, folks. Well, if you couldn't tell by the changing leaves, it is fall now here in Vermont. It's actually the first day of fall, and that means it is getting dark earlier and earlier and earlier. So I need to get out of the forest so I'm not walking out with a flashlight. Today was a great day. Couple old coins, a beautiful piece of jewelry, buttons, interesting objects from everyday life. Doesn't get much better. Got it all laid out on a log here. Let's take a look. Starting in the back, we have a whole pile of lamp parts. I lost count of how many spoons and spoon bowls I found. At least half a dozen. Off camera, a bunch of buckles, both iron and brass, for a very interesting chest lock or box lock. Not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure it's a lock though. Definitely a treasure chest. Drawer pull, parasol slide, the tiniest little ox knob I've ever found. A beautiful big crotal bell. Nice old pocket knife. 5 buttons, including the little fern button. 2 large cents, a drape bust, and a later variety. I can't really see it as of right now. And what I'm calling the find of the day, the cross. What I'm guessing was a necklace. There's a loop on top, but could have been part of a rosary as well. Really, really beautiful find and a surprise where I found it. All right, folks, I want to thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and hopefully you'll join me again next Friday for another new adventure somewhere up here in the mountains of Vermont.